All right, guys, before we get into this podcast with Sneako, shout out Prize Picks. Go to the App Store right now, download the app, put in code Bradley with your first $5 lineup. They give you $50 for free. That's like literally, even if you lose, you basically got $45 for free. Go download the app, put in code Bradley. We still got the UFC going on. The White House card is coming up. I'm actually really interested in that one, but it's super easy to use. If you guys want to check it out, once you download the app, use code Bradley. You go there, basically all sports. You can go pick more or less, very simple to use. Doesn't take a lot of like know-how. You could also click into certain stats and look at, where players or fighters, like how they previously placed or how they previously performed in their respective sports, obviously. So you can get an idea of where will they go next so you can make the right picks. Go check it out in the App Store, download Prize Picks. Let's get into this podcast with Sneako. Mr. Sneako, man, glad to have you back.
Glad to be here. How many times has been on the pod now? It's like fifth, sixth, seventh appearance.
I don't know. I just I like talking to you, man. I like the reoccurring you showing up and just talking about life.
Yeah, you've had some great appearances on my stream recently, and the RawTalk podcast has been probably my favorite one. So it's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, good to have you, bro. Well, obviously, there's a lot of important stuff going on in the world right now, specifically in Coachella Valley right now, the BieberChella. What do you think about that?
Why didn't you go? You're over there in LA. You told me to come to Coachella. I'm glad I didn't. So Neon couldn't stream, and then Justin Bieber, the headliner. You were super excited. You said all the LA girls are going to show up, the Instagram. And then he pulls up a MacBook and starts playing Double Rainbow. Oh my God, Double Rainbow. Not what I expected.
Double Rainbow?
Yeah.
Is that?
Remember, it was one of the first viral videos. Maybe, Gen Z doesn't remember, but Double Rainbow was one of the first viral videos. Remember the guy was like tripping out in LA, the Mexican guy said, oh my God, Double Rainbow. Your producer definitely knows.
I thought he pulled up, are you talking about Bieber? I thought he pulled up the These Nuts.
Yeah, he did These Nuts and then, got him, and then Double Rainbow.
I didn't see Double Rainbow. I just saw the These Nuts one and then all the throwback songs. But anyways, yeah, that's obviously not. I was kind of trolling about that. Not the most important thing to talk about.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to go deep into Coachella.
No. Why didn't you come?
For the exact reason that happened. So couldn't stream it, and it's a long flight. I'm glad I didn't go. Neon got scammed out of like $20,000 because of DMCA strikes. And that's why Aiden said the reason they don't let people stream it, because you can watch the broadcast on YouTube and react to it, is because celebrities are all doing psychedelics and Molly, and it's a place for them to get really messed up.
That's probably accurate, I would say.
I don't know. You would know better than me. That's your scene.
I don't know if that's necessarily my scene, but I've been around. I've seen it. So I'd say like, yeah, that sounds like the accurate reason why, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Expose it.
No, expose what? I mean, everyone knows that. Everyone goes to those festivals just to do whatever.
Did you see who was Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry there?
Is that real? I thought that was AI.
Is that AI? Am I a boomer? But I know that they're in a relationship, right?
I have no idea. I just saw and was like, is this real? It's probably real. Very important.
What is even real anymore? Everything is AI and real. I don't know. Maybe I fell for it. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I think it is real. To be honest, I have no idea. But yeah, what is real anymore? It's interesting. But yeah, I went on your show. We talked a little bit about what's going on in obviously Israel and Lebanon. What's your take on everything right now? What's your perspective?
So I think what was bigger news yesterday was the UFC fight. So Trump went out and which is funny because the ceasefire just fell through. So while Trump and Marco Rubio, our current Secretary of State, are at this UFC fight, mingling with podcasters and C-list celebrities and shaking hands and schmoozing, the ceasefire talks fell through. So JD Vance was over there. Marco Rubio should be there, but in his place was Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. These are the lead peace negotiators in the Middle East. Jared Kushner doesn't even have a position in the White House. He's just this real estate mogul. These are real estate guys, and they're also Jewish Zionists in charge of these deals. And there's a reason that the ceasefire ended. And people are criticizing this, saying, oh, you want the war to go on to keep getting content. No, obviously I don't want war to continue. But the ceasefire fell through because one of the points in the 10-point plan was for the bombing and the war in Lebanon to stop. But obviously Israel wants to continue, and they are in charge of our country. Time and time again, we have more evidence. They said, no, we're not going to stop bombing Lebanon, so this ceasefire can't happen. And like the good colony we are, we obeyed like good goyim, and now we're back into this war.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking into the Lebanon thing. Apparently Israel first had invaded Lebanon, I think around 1978,
82.
82. Are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah, 82 was the first invasion, and eventually Lebanon was able to expel Israel in 2000. And this is when Hezbollah was formed. So they say that,
After.
okay, they need to eradicate the terrorists, but Israel illegally invaded Lebanon, and then obviously resistance fighters pop up. And that was the formation of Hezbollah in 1982.
Yeah, you know what I find so interesting is whether or not you are believing whichever side of, who's the terrorist, who's not the terrorist. I think there's a simple fact that I kind of just in my head, I'm like, man, this is just interesting. And I don't understand how people don't see this, but when Israel was attacked on October 7th, their response was, right, we're defending ourselves now. Okay. But apparently it seems like when other countries defend themselves, they're terrorists. Am I getting that correctly? So I don't understand how people don't see the hypocrisy in it. Like whether you're defending whichever side, it's almost as if like, is everyone just supposed to just agree with what they're told or look at the actual timeline? Because if you look at the actual timeline, from what I understand with Lebanon specifically, they weren't necessarily attacking or doing anything to Israel. They were just, people were from Israel were coming to attack them. And I'm assuming for the land like that, I guess this kind of happened in Gaza as well. So it's just
They
like
just
I
want the
look.
land.
Yeah.
They-
Well,
they just-
I mean, and even we know this to be true, right? About the settlers, and there's people coming from like the states even going out there and taking the land. And I'm just like, I don't understand how people don't see that for what it is. And they're coerced or they're convinced by whichever pundit or whichever political commentator or speaker is just making everyone try to believe that everyone is a terrorist if they're against this. And it's tiresome, man. When I see it and the more I look into it, I'm just like, how are we not recognizing, even for the Israelis saying that they're defending themselves? Okay, that's fine for however you want to paint that picture. But then when other countries defend themselves, they're terrorists.
It's because that terrorist propaganda has been ingrained to be Muslims. So they have shoved that down the media for so long that we believe, or many people believe in America, that the Lebanese are terrorists. But there's a simple fact people don't seem to realize, that Lebanon is the most Christian country in the Middle East. It's not all Muslims. They are bombing churches. They assassinated a priest and they had a funeral procession. You could even see children that are celebrating last year, the Pope's arrival in Lebanon, have now been attacked and murdered by these bombs. I think it's a perfect example of information overload. So over the past several years, since October 7th, which they don't have that justification with Lebanon, we have been told that they were defending themselves. They constantly place themselves as the victim. But right now, Americans just have too much to care about. So we're reaching a point where it's just a acceptance, kind of like Stockholm syndrome. So we have Iran war, we have the Epstein files that aren't released. There's more bombing in the Middle East. Americans see it's like, okay, just Middle East bombing, terrorists. We don't have the energy to care about this anymore. Obviously I do, and obviously you do, which is important. But most people, they just see it as more chaos, more war. How do you expect the average American who has to work a job, go to school, to really care? I think now we've just accepted that Israel controls our country. So it's like, now what? Now we know this war is unjustified. Trump lied, but he's still dancing YMCA at the UFC. What are they going to do? Joe Rogan's criticizing the war, but he shakes his hand. All the other podcasters, streamers, celebrities who were critical of it, they see Trump and, they're just like, hey, that's Trump, the president. So I think people now reach the point where we were learning about it. We know, and we've accepted it, which is an uncomfortable reality to get used to.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Trump, right? Like shaking someone's hand or like being cordial with someone. Do you believe that it's entirely up to Trump, or it's in Trump's complete control to be able to even control it, like to change it?
Yeah, he has the opportunity to not bring us into more wars, but I think he's probably held back by blackmail. I think he's old and senile. I think he has the wrong leaders around, or the wrong voices around him. Someone like Charlie Kirk was the most anti-war ear or voice in Trump's ear. And we saw what happened to him. Charlie Kirk is no longer here. So now you have Steve Witkoff and you have Jared Kushner. These are very pro-war Jewish Zionists, and they are the ones, feeding him that information. I don't think he's capable of listening to a voice of reason. He recently posted that long 500-word essay on Truth Social. I'm sure you saw it, where he's attacking Alex Jones, saying that he's a kook because of Sandy Hook, Candace Owens because of her attacks on Macron's wife, calling her a man, making fun of Megyn Kelly. All of his original, and Tucker Carlson, all of his original supporters, he is now alienated. The only people he has left, Mark Levin, a Jewish Zionist, he promotes him on Truth Social all the time, very pro-war. When the ceasefire talks happened, he was shivering and shaking. He has Laura Loomer. This is an insane psychopathic woman who can't even purchase a weapon, allegedly, because she has been in and out of psych wards so many times. All he has left are never Trumpers. Back in 2015, 2016, people like JD Vance and Ben Shapiro were never Trumpers. I don't know if you were an original Trump supporter. I was. These people were very anti-Trump. And now that's the only people he has left. So the only people in his circle are just these war hawks, people that he claimed to want to defeat. He was against the globalism, against the neocons, and now he became one. So I don't know if he's capable of any reason anymore. I think he was accusing Joe Biden for being Sleepy Joe and being somebody with dementia. He became that.
Yeah. So you asked me that question. Was I a Trump supporter then? I think then I was just more, it's kind of sad to say, kind of more as I am now. Like I was just burnt out. I just looked at politicians the same way I do now. I guess I just, at some point during his last election cycle, I wanted to believe what was said. I wanted to believe that there weren't going to be new wars. I wanted to believe when he sits down with Joe Rogan and he says, I'm going to get this war done in Ukraine and Russia like this. It's going to take me a couple days. I'm going to release the files. We're going to release stuff about JFK. We're going to release all this stuff, running on the idea of no new wars, releasing all the information, draining the swamp. I believed it. I mean, genuinely believed it. And, I know I get a lot of for that, obviously, because the position we're in today, where it's like everyone's kind of like, you should have known. But yeah, I did want to believe that it was going to change. And then you just see now it's just more of the same, if not worse of more. Like it's more, even worse.
He positioned himself as an outsider. So when I first voted, I was in high school in 2016, 2015. I wanted Bernie Sanders at first. And I still get text messages from his campaign. He's like coming to New York because I was knocking on doors for Bernie Sanders. He was an outsider. He had a grassroots campaign. He wasn't taking super PAC money. And then if you remember, the DNC rigged the election against Bernie Sanders to get Hillary Clinton the nomination. And she eventually ran against Trump. And so I was one of the people, so many of the Bernie supporters were like, okay, well, I want an outsider. I'm not going to support the establishment. I'm going to go over to Trump. And I believed it too. There's a lot of value in America in the outsider. It's American DNA to reject the tax on tea, right? They tar and feather the messengers. Or when they wanted to, we weren't even originally supposed to have taxes. That was the rejection of an overruling tyrannical government. So having that outsider is what this country is about. And you can see they're even running with this now. Did you see RFK, Robert Kennedy, is starting a podcast like yours? And he's like, you can't trust the government about vaccines. I can't do his voice properly. He's like, we can't trust the government. He's doing a podcast saying we can't trust the government while being in the government. He is the government. Do you see the double standard? How can you be in the White House saying that you can't trust the people in the White House? Or Melania Trump, she does a speech 2 days ago, and she's saying, we need to release the Epstein files. Ask your husband, why are you telling us at a podium that we need to get this done? You do it. Go lay in bed next to your husband and say, release those files. Why are you telling the American citizens? And people fall for this, where they position themselves as the truth seeker, the truth teller, as the outsider, while being partnered up with the same people in charge of everything.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this obviously a couple times, but also off camera. It's just exhausting at this point. And I guess just the real question is, how do you think it actually changes? Like, does it actually change? Like, you see people like Dan's trying to run for Congress in Florida.
Yeah.
But I like, do you think there's enough of an ability to actually change at this point? I don't know how long it would take, but
we have 2 years. I think, well, Dan Bilzerian just said this to me because I just brought him on stream. I support him running for Congress against that fat guy, Randy Fine. That guy's a disaster. Just everything he says is vile. And Dan Bilzerian, he's actually speaking the way a lot of Americans, speaking what we want to hear right now. I like James Fishback running for governor of Florida. I like my Mamdani, the mayor of New York right now. I think he's doing a great job. Mamdani is a good example of the phenomenon that you could actually just do things. I saw that he posed up with the director I really like, John Wilson. He's this Jewish director who has this show called How To with John Wilson, just detailing problems in New York. And there's a major problem here, I'm sure you saw it when you came, of scaffolding, where almost every major building has construction in the front where they're supposed to protect things from falling. So you don't actually see the building, you just see the scaffolding in front of everything, And he had this episode on his show detailing just how annoying it is, how to have to weave under this in front of every sidewalk, and there's constant construction going on. Mamdani posted a video with that director saying he's going to make an effort to try to get rid of that scaffolding that's everywhere. He's posting videos where he's fixing the potholes because there's a big pothole problem. Mamdani is that effect where this is like a regular citizen. He's very young. He's younger than you. He's like probably 32, or you guys are the same age. You're like 28 or something.
Yeah, there you go.
He runs, he wins. He has a grassroots campaign, and now he's just actually getting things done. So I don't want to have a defeatist mentality. I can hear the exhaustion in your voice, and I get like that all the time. I best believe that you could see, like, is there really any way to change this? If everybody has that belief, nothing gets changed. I think the UFC yesterday is a good point in history to realize, okay, where are we at? Because everybody in the arena, they all are against the war. The approval rating of Trump has never been lower. Everybody's criticizing him. He campaigned on no new wars. Everybody in the UFC was on board with that. He brought us into a war, and they're still like, okay, should we do the dance? No. If we get exhausted, if we allow what's happening in Lebanon to happen without any pushback, then they win. You need to constantly try to make a change. You can do things. We can't just allow all this and approve it. You got to be real Americans. And when they try to tax you, you got to tar and feather the messenger.
All right, boys, quick rush for the podcast. Nutrafol. Listen, I know I might not be the best one here to give you advice on what you should or should. I mean, actually, I am. I think I am the best one to give advice here on what you should or shouldn't take for hair loss, because I learned all the information, but my timeline was a little messed up. So, like, if I learned it prior, I would have been better off than learning it when I was already kind of like way past saving. But check this out. Nutrafol sells some of the best supplements as far as dermatologists are recommending, and also, too, hair loss sort of changes over time depending on micronutrients. Nutrafol has two different products. So whether you're 18 to 49, they have a product for you, or whether you're over 50, they have a specific product for you there as well. But give it a shot. If you guys are looking for thicker hair, I know that I am, and I'm still trying to find it. But maybe you can ditch the hat if you get started, in the right timeline on it. For me, I just wish I learned a little bit sooner. There's a lot of micronutrients. There's a lot of things you can take as you're sort of dealing with it to help reduce the effects, and in some cases, I don't want to say necessarily reverse the effects, but make the hair thicker, make the hair fuller so that you have less of the thinning. Nutrafol is a product for you. If you guys want to check it out, I would check it out. If you guys want to check out Nutrafol, go to Nutrafol.com. That's Nutrafol.com and use code RawTalk to get $10 off your subscription right now. Again, it's Nutrafol.com. Code RawTalk, support the show, $10 off. Let's get back into this podcast. You talked about the Mamdani thing. It's like the things, you're right. Things can change at an extent. I'm not trying to sound defeatist, but like we're talking about building scaffoldings versus like real, like existential sort of issues. I'm not saying that building scaffoldings can't cause problems, but obviously things like that can change without pushback. It's just like my concern is always that these people are going to come into office, whether it's Dan or whoever, anyone, and then they're just going to be met with the same suit and ties as always that are just like, hey, you just actually can't do that because we're not going to let you, because there's so much more behind the scenes than I think people are even aware of.
Trump had the opportunity to not sell out. When he first started, I think the first couple of years, he was doing a decent job, and he let his entire base get subverted by the Kushners and the Witkoffs. He let himself lose his original base, and they swapped with never Trumpers who are just war hawks. So I don't like that. I mean, there was an opportunity at first. Do you remember how much the media hated Trump originally? It's because he had a populist movement. It's because he had the predominantly white Christian demographic in America on his side, and they were very afraid that he was going to push them away from that agenda. when they realized that he was on board with them, they embraced him. Yes, there's a existential threat. Yes, there is overwhelming control. But if people do work together, there is a real change. And inevitably, yes, you can look further into the future at eschatology, what's going to happen with the third temple, with Al-Aqsa Mosque, with Greater Israel, which was a conspiracy theory like 6 weeks ago. And now Netanyahu's openly bragging about expanding even more. Like, what is Lebanon right now other than expanding into Greater Israel? This is no longer a conspiracy theory, just like everything else they called an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. So I'm weary, and I don't want people to fall into that trap because we can't go out without a fight.
Yeah, it's just frustrating because I just think directly about the whole COVID situation and how everyone was, even Trump at some point was talking about ivermectin and all these other like sort of alternatives to the whole jab and the shot and all this stuff that everyone's like, oh, you're just trying to kill grandmas and then at some point it just all not doesn't matter, but it's quiet. No one talks about it. It's gone. It's in the past. They got the money they needed to get for this pharmaceutical companies, and it's just business as usual. My fear is that the same just permeates. The same happens. It's just business as usual. At some point, they're going to get more land. They're going to have more land. It's going to be like, well, that's just the way it is now, and that's just what it is. And it's crazy because it's like literal people's lives being destroyed and taken. And yeah, the more I see it, the more I'm just like, I don't understand this in a way that it is good and it is just and it is right. But I see it and I can understand what's happening, and it just makes me sad, man. Like genuinely sad. And to see people try to defend all this while still defending like the right to exist here, but not the right to exist there. And it's like, man, what like, it just does not make sense. And I hope more people can see it for what it is. Despite what you believe, it's just like, look at what is happening. Like, don't, it's not about what side you think you're on. It's like, look at what is actually happening and make a real assessment, not just because some political person says this or that about it. And yeah, I wish there was more I could do. Personally, I guess I don't really know what else I could do other than like, I don't know, try to run for something and get in there and then probably be beat down by some people in some suits in the back. But like, I don't know. I just wish there was more that I could do other than sit on a podcast and talk about it. And hopefully this is good in some way. But yeah, it's just frustrating, bro. It's super frustrating because, like we all sit and we talk about this stuff. You make content around this stuff. Obviously I'm doing that at this exact moment. I try not to make all my content centered and focused around this, but it just feels a little bit helpless sometimes. And yeah, that's where I'm at. And it's kind of why I've like stopped posting as much just in general. I'm just like, man, what the fuck is going on in the world? And how are more people not seeing it for what it is and just reading bullshit on CNN or New York Times or something?
Well, yeah, you make a valid point. I think there were two specific incidents in the past several decades that made the elites aware of the power they have. And the first one was after the 2008 recession. There were these protests called the 99% versus the 1%. And this is when people, regardless of race, religion, creed, or background, they all came together and they said, the bank screwed us over. You guys gave these people all these shoddy loans. You screwed us over. We lost our jobs. You destroyed the economy. You need to be held responsible. And then Larry Fink, the BlackRock CEO, which he's now admitting essentially that the wokeism and the DEI, that was a failed experiment and he's going to put his money somewhere else. So what they did in response to this, because they were really threatened, seeing the 99% band together and get angry, they pushed more racial division. They pushed class division and all these isms, transgenderism, LGBT. They gave us left-right slop so that we could divide ourselves again, so that we would not unite against the banks. This is where you saw DI rise up, and this is where you saw the push in the media for people to create these factions within race and keep people fighting each other rather than realizing the bigger problem. The second major incident was COVID. So they realized after COVID how much they could actually get away with. And you correctly pointed out that this is something that destroyed people's lives. People injected something into their body, which they're now saying is extremely harmful. And you could get fired, you can get alienated. A lot of people didn't want to talk to me when I didn't get the COVID vaccine. I remember when you opened your gym, you were facing legal pushback and people were calling you a grandma killer. This was one of the major psyops in recent history. And look how quickly everybody moved on. It is interesting because during that time, everybody in the country, they quite literally lit it on fire because of George Floyd. They were lighting police stations on fire, lighting Target on fire. Everybody broke quarantine to protest the death of this one man. But the Epstein files aren't released and there's almost nothing at all. There's no protests. And they realize how much they can control the people under this mass psychosis. The only recent protest where people were really standing up together was the No Kings protest. What does that mean, no kings? There are no kings. It's not a monarchy. There are no kings in America. And you realize who's organizing these protests. Once again, it's this billionaire Israeli family that lives in DC. They are the ones directing this protest. And I was hearing that a lot of the directors of these protests, they were told not to protest the Iran war. It was specific to no kings, which is this non-term. You know, it makes people feel like they're really doing something while actually not protesting what really matters. So we have to break free of this mass psychosis. And this is what I'm really doing with my platform, is trying to get people to realize that as long as we are all in, you know, if you're in the working class, if you're a citizen, if you're not within the billionaire class, we are all the same. We have a lot more in common than they want us to believe. They want us to be fighting each other over Christian, Muslim, white, black, you know, Shia, Sunni. All this is meant to keep your energy drained and divided and keep you exhausted. Like you said, they need you to be drained so that when you see what's happening in Lebanon, you're like, oh, here we go again. And you don't really care. You know, this is why I think AI is being pushed. I think the new method, several years ago, around time of COVID, remember I was deplatformed everywhere. I'm still deplatformed on most platforms. Censorship was their method. The reason they don't censor as much anymore is because they realize, oh, wait, we don't actually need to hide the information. We can tell them, but just overflow it with more propaganda. Get people fighting each other, keep their energy drained so that even though the truth is there, they don't have the energy to care enough. So we need to make an active effort to focus on what's right. And I understand it almost does seem hopeless and it is exhausting, but you can't ever embody that mentality because then there's really no point.
Yeah. It's almost like you said, not just the information not being there. It's also like, so much information. So you almost can't discern which one's right, which one's wrong. Cause I know a lot of times that's what I see. Cause I've always tended to try to understand both sides, all sides, which I know you like to call me a fence sitter sometimes. And it's pretty funny, but I like to understand everything. And I like to argue, try to argue both sides. And I try to understand both sides. And I think that's what makes it also extra frustrating because you see so much information now. You're just kind of like, it's almost gotten to the point where you're like, I don't even know. And so, yeah, it kind of makes you go like, since you can't discern what's real, what's fake, what if that person said is true, or if that is an actual video of a kid getting, you know, his body blown apart, or it's just like, that's what I really believe is happening. I think you nailed it. And I think it's deeper though. I think it's not just information. I think it's an attack on actual human consciousness. Mm-hmm. I think the underlying thing that's happening here overall is that I think that our ability to create our lives, our ability to make our lives what we want them to be is so powerful, individually, but also on a collective conscious level. And it might sound a little hippie to you, but like if we're all in the belief that like this is the way it is and this is how it's supposed to be, I think that allows it to exist more naturally, more normally, and it becomes quote unquote okay, although it's not okay. So I think all this information and the information war and the AI stuff and the what's real, what's wrong, what's fake, what's true, I think is a push to control this collective consciousness so that people are not, like you said, able to break out of it and to go, okay, this is wrong and this is right. So your discernment is completely screwed so that you internally you go, well, f it. And you just kind of go on to what the things you can focus on in your life. Like, yeah, I got to pay my bills. I gotta pay for my mortgage. I got to buy this gas. It's crazy expensive now. And you just kind of defer to those things that are just natural in your space. And I really do believe it's an attack on consciousness so that people don't all collectively go, this is completely f***ed up. Like, let's really change this and not just, talk about it on the internet.
It's funny. what you just said literally happened at the beginning of this podcast. I was talking about Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry at Coachella, and you're like, is that AI? I'm like, I don't know. And then I just move on. Now it's not, I don't even
Yeah.
know whether to receive that as real information. It is interesting that the Epstein files have been delayed so long to where AI is good enough to manipulate everything. And so if they ever do fully release, it's almost impossible to determine whether or not it's real. And when it does, we're just going to be like, okay, it could be AI, it could be not. And then it's half truth, half falsehood. They mix the truth with falsehood. So then it's all false. The same way, a drop of oil can taint an entire gallon of water. This is how we're going to look at information. So that is the method. It's a spiritual war. It's a war in your soul. And I think you are reflecting the feeling that a lot of Americans have right now. I think that was the way the MMA fans were at the fight last night. They just want to see, they're like, okay, this is bad, but I just want to enjoy the fight. Like, I don't want to have to do this political thing right now. Okay, like, yeah, it's this, but I want to turn my brain off and enjoy this for a second. I've been looking forward to this. I paid for these expensive tickets. I have to go back to work tomorrow. Am I really going to spike my cortisol and get angry at this one little fight? Yeah, that's just a good example of how people, although they're all thinking the same thing, they just don't really feel like speaking up right now because they just want to enjoy the fight. You're right. And look at the average dad in Gen Z. I repeat this on the stream with you all the time. I don't like to call you a fence sitter. I do think it's important to have conversation with different people. For example, like Hassan Piker is right about the Iran war, but my criticisms of what he promotes is so many isms. He talks about leftism and socialism and transgenderism, and it's like all this is meant just to keep you thinking that you're fighting for what's right while they continue to expand and they continue to invade and displace 1 million people in Lebanon. This is part of the distraction. You can't criticize the same country who is responsible for pushing the ideologies that you embrace so much. Larry Fink is admitting that this was a failed project. So the same liberals who yell all day about how evil billionaires are buying into their propaganda. But he is right about a lot of issues. It's just mixing in truth with falsehood is a major mistake, and we need to make an active effort to reduce that as much as we can. And what's not stated enough is just how absolutely drained the average person is. I say all the time, the average person in Gen Z, 10% of Gen Z can own a house and be married at the age of 30. For the baby boomer generation, which is still the majority of the voting bloc, do you know this? The majority of the voting bloc is the same generation that's voted in the last 5 to 10 presidents, born from 1945 to 1965, around the time you were born. And they still are pushing us into war. They still want the same neocon war hawks. They don't care about the future generations. The fact that it's only 10% of us that it's a pipe dream, it's an American dream now, just to own a home and have kids, is a glaring alarm that we should look at. The Federal Reserve chairman, he's saying that the fact that we are $39 trillion in debt is disastrous and someone should pay attention. If we are being realistic, we should look at this and be like, okay, this all looks like a disaster ready to hit. It's like looking at a tsunami, looking at the wave about to crash and like, oh, UFC fight. Oh, but this is still, you have to look at the hurricane about to hit you.
BieberChella.
Yeah. Coachella, right.
Yeah.
Just like, Justin Bieber and his laptop. Yeah, we do love our gore slop.
Yeah. No, it's frustrating, bro, because I see it. I really see it. When do you think it really hits, though?
I think this is the start of it. I was just talking to someone in my family. I got lunch earlier, and they're like, okay, you put out too much doom and gloom. It's not the end of the world. No, I don't think it's the end of the world. And I don't think that any of us alive right now are going to be able to see this, the coming of Jesus and this stuff, or the return of Jesus. But I do think Iran war is a good start point for when they write a book about this, this is a start point for how the end began. It's like the beginning of the end in a way. Yeah. Although it's not going to happen immediately, and I'm not telling people to be worried or to, go in a bunker or to, join a suicide cult. But I am saying like this war right now is a starting point. So yeah, it is pretty easy to get demoralized, but that's what they want. I mean, they want you to feel that way. So you have to actively fight against that. If you are acknowledging that this is a spiritual war, that it's a war on your consciousness and it's a war on your energy, then getting drained is letting them win. That's playing into their hand. playing into this division is exactly what they want. So if you know this, don't let them win.
Yeah. It's frustrating too, even speaking specifically about the Iran war and our past, obviously, wars in the Middle East. The same people that are cheering this war on now were at one point talking about how big of a blunder and how big of a mistake the Iraq war was for like the same sort of from a different direction. And now all of a sudden it's like, no, this one's good though. This one makes sense though. And then, I just can't but help but realize and look at the videos of this Netanyahu guy for the last 30 years saying the same about Iran, trying to push the same thing that, I guess he finally got now. And then that noted with the fact that he's currently like basically to put on trial and to be kicked out of his like whole, I guess his country or his prime ministership or be tried as a criminal. And his way of staying in is by staying in offensive. And it's just like, bro, how do all these things exist? And specifically that clip of this guy saying how there's going to be a bomb in the next 2 weeks, in the next 6 months, in the next 2 years, consecutively over all those years. And then, well, but now, and there's even one of their biggest proponents, right? Charlie Kirk, there's footage of him saying, oh, this time it makes sense. We're saying we're going to trust them this time. And it's just like, you see all the, and those people all on the same sort of side of the fence. And all of a sudden it's like, no, that like, this just doesn't exist right now though. This makes sense. And it's like, how can you not see it for what it is? Like, how can you still support what's happening there and knowing all that to be true? Like, how can you see it all and go, yeah, no, this time it's real. And even before this war started, it was like, they bombed it. Everything's gone. We got everything. Everything's gone. We blew it all up. But then we're still there and we're still in a war. And if you like, I go through these tweets of Donald Trump talking about like this sort of progression in the war. And it's like, we beat them. They're done. Oh, 2 more weeks. Oh, if you guys don't come help us, it's a problem. Oh, wait, we don't need help. Oh, wait, we need help. It's just like, bro, if you can't see the timeline, you can't look at it all like you're a political belief. You just got to look at it and go, this is clearly a massive up situation and it's wrong. Otherwise, like there wouldn't be this constant back and forth. Like there wouldn't be this, Netanyahu wouldn't be saying that they're going to have a bomb in 2 weeks and then a year later say it's going to be in 6 months and then a year later say it's going to be in 2 years and then a week later say it's going to be very soon. Like, how can you not see that and go, clearly something's wrong, clearly someone's lying, but yet here we are and the same people defending it. It's just like, bro, I'm so goddamn like, I don't understand how people don't see it. And I'm
Trump's
curious.
rhetoric,
I'm just like, I'm so curious. Do people see it? And are the only people who don't see it are just robots? Like, is everyone, because I'll get on Twitter and I'll read through comments and stuff like, and I'll see people trying to defend it. Like, oh, this time they're really terrorists. We promise. Like, is it just bots? Is just the AI
bots? Yeah, it's definitely part of intelligence agencies for sure. There's just no way that this is supportive. It is pretty, that's one thing I didn't expect is everybody to fall into the same trap after Iraq war. Like, how is this script, especially people like the boomer generation, didn't you hear this exact same thing before? But Trump's method right now, I don't know if you noticed, is to say everything and nothing all at once. So if you're not schizo level invested into this war, you'll miss out on every update. For example, I crashed out on stream the other day. I had this whole stream plan about the nuke that he was threatening. He said that he was going to destroy the whole civilization. He was threatening to send him back to the Stone Ages at 8 a.m.
Yeah, but right, they're doing that for the Iranian people, right? That's how. Yeah. That's also
saying
we were told.
End the civilization after saying he was going to free them. So they say they're going to free them. They're going to save the gays, but also they're going to send them back to the Stone Ages. They won the war. We won. We're victorious. But also he's yelling at NATO for not joining them. But I thought you won. So why would you need their help? He's saying everything all at once. He's saying they're weak. They're weak people. We can beat them. They're very strong people. They're resilient. Like they say both. They say everything in the same speech. So you can't pinpoint one perspective. It's just saying like JD Vance. Yeah,
the best example of this I'm sorry I interrupted, but the best example of exactly what you just said, like direct example, the tweet about Tucker, Candace, Alex, all these people. In the same tweet, he says, CNN just said my ratings are 100%. And then later on, he goes, CNN's fake news. In the same tweet. You can't, I'm not even making this up. You could pull the tweet up. In the same exact tweet, he says both of those things. So it's like,
Yeah.
which one is it? And how do you not read that and go, what the? It's
Yeah.
just, I can't, I'm like in disbelief that people still are supporting it and not understanding that like this is clearly just trying to piss us everyone off. So we're all just like arguing about dumb shit, not actually trying to stop something. Yeah, I just don't get how people don't see it. How it could all be said straight in your face and you go, okay, so this is true. On top of the fact that like all those people were like fully in support of Trump as he was going into office. And then now all of a sudden, and excuse me, then they were good people and they were right and they were doing the right thing. And now they're just stupid and they're low IQ and they're dumb and no one's talking about them, yet he's tweeting about them. I'm just like, bro, I can't get behind this. It's too blatant. It's too obvious. It's just like, because someone's opinion changes based on someone's actions, all of a sudden, that person's just dumb. Like, what are we talking about?
And he's saying, and no one talks about them, but you're the president talking about them during a war. So clearly they matter. You wouldn't address them or write this if their opinions weren't affecting your base, which is why you're trying to discredit them. I've never seen this level of confusion. I've never seen somebody use that method. JD Vance is in Hungary saying, I'm not here to elect anybody. 10 seconds later, we all got to vote for this guy, right? It's just, so it kind of alleviates you from any responsibility if you say both things at once. It's a pretty interesting tactic, but they understand that the masses are just that stupid, they can get away with it. That's why it's insulting to anybody who's analyzing it properly, which does take a good amount of time. But post-COVID, they realized what they can get away with. Like Trump was saying 2 weeks to stop the spread. That was his administration. Dr. Fauci was saying that. And now his administration, they are presenting themselves as the anti-vaccine, ivermectin guys. We're the base ones, anti-government. But it's like, you guys were in charge when it happened. What are you talking about? You guys were pushing the vaccine. Trump got the vaccine. So
yeah,
it's because they know that they can get away with this and because they really just believe that we're really stupid. And are they wrong? I mean, I have been speaking to a lot of people, especially the military age, draft age men. We're on the same boat because, people make fun of us for being unk. I'm turning 28 this year, but the draft age is 18 to 25. And so I see these, I'm like, what happened to unk? I'm going to be in my bed, cuddled up in a Snuggie with my hoodie on, watching you guys in Iran on Karg Island, trying to go fight some IRGC popping out with an AR-15 in the ocean. And I speak to them and I'm asking, okay, you ready to fight this war? They're like, yeah, I want to defend my country. And they haven't even thought about it. I'm seeing people talking to people in the military that are ready to get deployed. They're like, I'm here to defend my country. I'm here to defend Trump. I'm like, Trump was a draft dodger. He said no new wars. And like, I just want to defend my country. Do you know Marco Rubio said that they attacked first preemptively to prevent an attack? They didn't actually pose an imminent threat. They're like, well, they're killing Americans. Well, they don't kill Americans on American soil. They do to the troops that are deployed in the Middle East that are fighting Israel's wars. They're like, well, I just do what I'm told. And I'm like, okay, then why am I even talking to you? You just do what you're told. So you're going to give your life away and you don't even care why. The propaganda runs so deep that even though the truth is right here, they'll be able to get away with it. But it's, it is pretty, and this didn't exist before. This is a new phenomenon we're seeing where they don't have to censor it. They're like, okay, well, it's strong enough. People are just exhausted and they want their UFC. They want their good Goy Slap coach. They want BieberChella. This is that part is really setting on me. It's like, and it's almost hard to go out sometimes. I spend so much time indoors doing more research and reading more that when I do step outside and go to a coffee shop or something, and I hear the music and I'm looking at the people, I'm like, how are you guys not? Did you guys see the Epstein files? Like, are we seeing the same info? Like, are you guys aware of what they're calling us and what they do? And they're like, here's your order. And I'm like, do you know? It's a little bit scared. I wasn't like this before, but I am like, are you guys okay? How are you just going along with life? Do you know that there's a war coming and, the oil's going up and the economy like a tank? We're $39 trillion in debt and the petrodollar might fail and the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. But trying my best.
Didn't he say he was going to close it himself now from like further on?
He said that me and the Ayatollah are going to control the Strait of Hormuz, which is now look at the terms for the war, like their new terms of victory. They're saying that they are going to prevent Iran from enriching uranium. That was part of the terms that Obama, when he signed the Iran nuclear deal, that was going to expire in 2040. I think it was from 2018 to 2040. He was supposed to stay. It's at or 2014 to 2040. And then the first thing Trump did when he gets into office, Iran nuclear deal. We don't negotiate with terrorists, and he tore up the nuclear deal. Okay, now we go to war with them. Do you know what the terms are now? They want to prevent Iran from enriching uraniums. They want to enriching uranium. They want to open the Strait of Hormuz. It was open before February 28th, before the war started. The strait was open. And now he's demanding open the effing strait on Easter Sunday. He's saying, praise be to Allah, open up the effing strait. He's not saying praise be to Jesus. He's mocking Islam and cursing about a mistake that he made by joining this war. So the terms of victory just keep on changing. And it's like, look back at the timeline, like you said. Obama had the correct vision with the Iran nuclear deal. And now he wants to do the art of the deal and create some sort of ceasefire, going back on everything he said. He was humiliating Obama. He was getting extremely upset about that. And now he's in the same exact position.
Do you think the war prolongs for some time? Do you think there's going to be a boots on the ground continuously?
Yeah. Israel just dragged us back into this war. So several times since this conflict started, Trump has made some signs to try to get us out of it because he sees how unpopular it is. But Israel drags us back in. The only reason that the ceasefire didn't go through, the main reason, is because Israel wants to keep on bombing Lebanon. And look who was present at those ceasefire talks in Pakistan, in Islamabad. It was J.D. Vance, and then standing right behind him, like his handlers. Like, why are they even at that speech? I don't know if you saw the photos, but you have Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, these rich Jewish Zionist real estate guys, not even real politicians, who are at all these meetings and always hovering over. Kushner married into Trump's family. He married Ivanka Trump, Trump's daughter, the same daughter who he said, perhaps I'd be dating her if she weren't my daughter. She marries in, and in his first administration, he moves the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Then he recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. This is the Holy Land. This is where Aqsa Mosque is. So these are major signs that they are trying to accelerate something greater, right? It's not just some political thing going on. This is real eschatology. The Holy Land here, this is where they want to rebuild the third temple. They need to destroy Aqsa Mosque to create their third temple. And this is where you get into the Messianic age. And this is where you get into Chabad Lubavitch, this sect within Judaism. It doesn't represent all Judaism. That's not separate from Torah Jews. But these are the same rabbis who in the 1980s, they were telling Benjamin Netanyahu on camera, when Netanyahu was first coming up, you could see the Chabad Lubavitch rabbis say, come on, we need to see the Messiah come. We need to usher in the, come on, we need to. And he's like, okay, yes, yes.
There's footage of that?
Yes, there's footage of, I think it's in New York City, where Netanyahu is speaking to Chabad Lubavitch rabbis. They're saying, come on, please. These are the same rabbis who worship this false Messiah named Rabbi Schneerson, who claimed to be the Messiah. But now they still say that they want him in. A lot of this is extremely kooky. And they invited me to come on Tuesday to the Chabad Lubavitch headquarters and go with the rabbis. So I was thinking about going on stream. Yeah, me. This guy, Rabbi Yasso, he's been in the White House, you know, rapping the tefillin on politicians. He's been on stream with me and Aiden before. And I'm apprehensive to do it because obviously these people are not going to be favorable. If you will come, maybe you could, would you come with me?
Fuck, bro. Where is it? New York?
Yeah, it's the Chabad Lubavitch headquarters. So this is actually, you know, you heard about the tunnel phenomenon. Remember, this was like brushed under the rug. This should have been the biggest news story in years. Tunnels in New York City were connected to Chabad Lubavitch synagogues and headquarters, and they're popping out like Mario, like jumping out of potholes. And everyone just moves on. Like, this is not a real story. Imagine if that were Muslims. Can you imagine all the legislation that would be passed? That would be rhetoric of every single congressman right now, that they need to get rid of these tunnels, and they just move on. This is a sect that's trying to accelerate the end times. This is a sect where when Trump was campaigning, he went to the Rabbi Schneerson grave with Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick is the Secretary of Commerce right now. I don't know if you know him. He's the same politician who said he wasn't friends with Jeffrey Epstein. And then you find out in the files that he brought 5 of his children to Epstein Island 3 years after Epstein was convicted of sex crimes. And also he was next door neighbors with Epstein. Epstein lived in building 9 on East 81st Street. Lutnick lived in building 11. So it's like you weren't friends with them. You were next door neighbors. You brought your kids to the island. You know, there's pictures of you on Epstein Island. And is he getting prosecuted? Is he getting persecuted? No, he's still at all these meetings. He's still at all the war negotiations. He's still behind Trump in all these photos. This is who is in control. This is who is manipulating him. I really like this video that Alex Jones posted where, although he says a lot of things that are false, there's like this demon coming in, or there's the Epstein venom connected to Trump. This is who's really taking control of him. It's like an evil entity is now operating his body and doing their bidding. It's no longer a man who is in control of himself anymore. He let the greed take over everything. He let his legacy run what could have been something great. And that's why I don't think we should be like, oh, we should just give up, because he had the opportunity, but he cared more about money and fame. He cared more about his name on a building and his name in a newspaper and being remembered for a Nobel Peace Prize. Do you see him keep bragging about that? He's like, I should win the Nobel Peace Prize in the middle of a war he just brought us into. He just wants to get this stupid award. This is what his priority is. It's not the future of this country. It's not America first. It's his name first. So he sold out. And if we all follow this mentality, then yeah, the country will be destroyed quicker than it should, but it doesn't have to be.
All right, guys, cooking works for the podcast. Meal prep. I get asked all the time, literally all the time, about what should I eat? What should I not eat? What's the best thing to eat to gain weight? What's the best thing to eat to lose body fat? Listen, the best thing you could do is have something set out for you, in my opinion, because I struggle with like just ordering random food all the time. Factor Meals is a meal plan service that basically they're going to send everything directly to your door. The food is good. The macros are great. Give it a shot. You're not going to be able to work yourself out of a diet, no matter what your goal is, if it's to build muscle or to lose fat. Diet is key. There's nothing more important than that when it comes to losing weight specifically, but also gaining muscle, right? If you want to be able to perform at a high level, you want to be able to feel good in and out of the gym. Food is so important. If you're not eating the right things, you're going to feel shittier. You're going to get less results. It's going to take way longer. And sometimes it's not even going to happen if you're not doing it. So if you guys want to check it out, go to factormeals.com/rawtalk50 off and use code rawtalk50 off to get 50% off right now on your subscription, plus a year of free breakfast. Again, it's factormeals.com/rawtalk50 off. Use code rawtalk50 off. Let's get back into this podcast. So I want to talk about the Al-Aqsa, the mosque thing. That what do you think is going to happen there? Because if it's, you're talking about eschatology and there's sort of religious beliefs around that, what do you think is going to happen to that location?
Yeah, I don't want people to think eschatology is kooky conspiracy, because that word just means it's the belief of what happens in the end of times. And this is a similarity that Christians, Catholics, evangelists, Christians, Protestants, Jews, Muslims, that we all have. But there's a lot of similar things. There's some disagreements, but we do believe in the coming of the Messiah. Christians and Muslims believe that Jesus is the Messiah. He will return and he will defeat the Antichrist. The Jews, they believe that their Messiah is the Mashiach, as they say. They just had a big rave celebration in Times Square the day after I did the Times Square prayer for Ramadan. And they're chanting, "We want Mashiach now." And there's no backlash for that. So for this to happen, they need to have Jerusalem needs to be the Holy Land for Greater Israel. They need to have these red heifer cows. Wait, this sounds really kooky, but you could see that there was a purchase of these red heifer cows in Texas. Why is this? They also need to have corruption in the land. There needs to be wars going on, Gog and Magog. And Al-Aqsa Mosque does need to be destroyed. I think this is coming in the near future, probably in several years, because what happened uniquely since 1967, this was the first year that during the Eid prayers, Al-Aqsa Mosque wasn't open for the Muslims. They closed it down, saying that it was under threat or whatever. They made all these excuses. And when Muslims went there to go pray, because this is our third holiest site, it goes Mecca, Medina, and then Al-Aqsa. When they closed it down, a lot of Muslims wanted to go pray anyway. The IDF, you could see them terrorizing them, beating people and chasing them out. It's horrific to see, especially during our holy month. It was finally reopened, I think, 2 days ago, and then you could see people go in again to pray. But I think that they are going to try to destroy it, and they're going to plan it on Iran. They're going to blame Iran for this, because even then, I just saw when I was in the airport coming back from Turkey on the news, they're saying that debris from the missiles from Iran going into the GCC countries, there was debris hit near Jerusalem. So I think that during this war, they're probably going to blow it up, and they're going to blame it on Iran and say that it was missile debris or that Iran struck it. And then they're going to try to make the Sunnis and Shias divided, because the majority of the Arab states are Sunni Muslim, Iran predominantly Shia Muslim. And there's small disagreements. People think that they're very different, and I think that that's overstated. But besides the point, right now you can see some divides. The GCC countries, people in Dubai, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi, a lot of them are very upset at Iran because they have hit the U.S. military bases that are deployed there. From Iran's perspective, they're like, okay, well, why are you allowing the enemy to put military bases facing us, right? You guys have an ideological difference, but you're allowing Israel and the US to work in your own country while they're genociding your own people in Palestine. Yahya Sinwar, the leader of the Palestinian resistance, he said before he died, before he was martyred, he said that Iran was actually helping them the most. When all the Arab states, when they went quiet, when we needed them the most, Iran was there supplying us with weapons. And so Iran's seeing this, okay, well, Palestine, this is the center of the Ummah right now. This is the entire Muslim world sees this and is in pain seeing what's happening. Yahya Sinwar was saying that the Arab states were not helping the way that they should have, and Iran was, even though they're Shia and we're Sunni. And so what is happening as well, this is not conspiracy because people think this is all kooky. You can see that there's tunnels being built. They're apparently trying to find terrorists and they're doing archaeological site digs underneath Al-Aqsa Mosque. Why? So that you need to find these weird, what are you looking for right now?
They're doing that right now.
There's been archaeological digging, yes, under Al-Aqsa Mosque in the past several months and years. And what are they really doing? Or why are they even closing it for the first time since 1967? Perhaps they're planning something there. Perhaps there's going to be a controlled demolition. Why would Iran want to destroy one of their major holy sites? But this is their method. And you could even see there's videos of rabbis saying that this war is very good because they're going to be able to blame so many things on Iran. You got to be aware of this propaganda. And I think a lot of people will fall for it, but there's going to be the same phenomenon where, although it does seem plainly obvious right now what the method is, there's so much video proof of this. A lot of people will just be, too exhausted to care.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. Where do you get your information from? Like, what do you look at? Do you look at other content?
So I've been doing a lot more interviews on my stream recently. Tomorrow morning, I have Alexander Dugan and Professor Jang on again. I'm going to have Professor Morandi and Professor Jang on Tuesday. But I don't agree with all of them. I have very different beliefs. I think Dugan is an Orthodox Christian, kind of, but he has esoteric beliefs. Jang is kind of a Gnostic, somewhat. It sounds a little bit Buddhist to me, but he's very different. And again, like the things that I'm citing, this is all things that are proven. I think you could see the purchase of the red heifers. You could look at the proof of the archaeological digging that they're doing beneath Jerusalem. This is all proven. And even then the Chabad Lubavitch rabbis speaking to Netanyahu, there's videos of this happening. Like of them saying, we need to accelerate. We need to see the Mashiach talking to Netanyahu. And this is why he's so happy that he finally got this war. He's saying that he was trying to get it done for 47 years. Finally, Trump got it done. So this is not, conspiratorial. I'm just looking at what's in front of us.
Yeah. When are you going to have Nick on again?
We'll see. I've done a lot of streams. When are people going to have me on? It's always like, hey, when are you going to do this? When are you going to keep platforming these people? I've been throughout the past several years in the manosphere. It's like I have made so many careers. They publicly say I made the careers. I put them on. I take sacrifices. I defend them extensively when they're in jail, when they don't have platforms. I go to bat for these people. I platform them. And there's not any reciprocation. So I'm getting to a point. It's like, why am I doing all this? It's like, it's time for some reciprocation. It's my turn. I'm always expected to, I think, because people see that, maybe they see that, that oftentimes I'm the bigger person, or that I'm good-hearted, or maybe people just see me as useful, that I'm the useful one to give a platform to people. And I don't like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, you've kind of broken. I mean, there was this whole documentary thing with that. What's his name? Theodorix? How do you say his fucking name? Yeah, this whole documentary. You were a part of that. You seem to have really broken away from that space, and I guess kind of all the guys kind of have in a way. The manosphere thing.
No, there's the manosphere still exists. It's just not what it once was. It's just the facade has been broken down. And a lot of people, they still try to talk about these issues, like about how feminism and women are the problem. It's like, this is so old and dated. How could you look at what's happening in Lebanon and be like, women driving is the issue? This is silly. So a lot of them are kind of stuck, and, they have different people in their ear, different handlers, and different businesses that are telling them what they can and can't say. So I think that they lost their credibility. But time and time again, I just did an IRL stream yesterday, and people are coming up to me saying, hey, you did a great job in the Manosphere documentary. I think Louis thought that this was going to be a hit piece attack. And time again, we see that conspiracy theorists are vindicated. Like Greater Israel 6 weeks ago was anti-Semitic, and now we could see you with COVID. That was seen as a horrible thing. You're killing grandmas. Now we see, okay, actually, I probably shouldn't have gotten those mRNA shots, and they're looking into it more. Or back then, a year ago, the major thing they had against me was he's like, is there a satanic cabal controlling the world? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, that sounds like a anti-Semitic conspiracy. I'm like, I didn't even say anything about Jews. I said there's a satanic cabal controlling the world. You're the one who said it's anti-Semitic, which is really the anti-Semitic rhetoric to assume satanic means Jews. And then he said, so who's at the top of the pyramid? I said, the Rothschild family. And he's like, that's crazy. Well, look at the Epstein files. Epstein himself says he represents the Rothschilds. Of his top 5 financiers, the people financing the most were Leon Black, Leslie Wexner, and the Rothschild family was in the top 5. So it's like, okay, vindicated again. The Rothschild family control the central bank system. So am I really crazy for saying that Satanists control the world when the files released after the documentary was filmed? And look at the evil things that they're doing in here, the way that they're speaking, the photos of Epstein and these children, the way that they're partnered up with our politicians. Howard Lutnick, clearly one of his best friends, still in the White House, not persecuted at all. Ye is banned from entering the UK because of some tweets from a year ago, but Howard Lutnick is still sitting in the White House after bringing his kids to Epstein Island and admitting it. What's going on?
Yeah, it's pretty it's pretty interesting, man. It's the funniest part is the whole, like, you know, they'll just say, no, we don't control all this stuff yet. Like, the Wireless Festival is going to be shut down now because Kanye was going to headline it, and Pepsi pulled out, and all these big companies, PayPal pulled out. It's a little frustrating to say the least, man. But I guess the whole veil is just being sort of pulled down. The concerning part is there's still people that I think are just afraid to talk about any of it because it all sort of ties back to money and opportunities. Like you said, there's certain handlers or certain people behind the scenes that, you know, I think people are aware of. If they go too hard against, then they're not going to have that favor or that benefit or that financial stream or whatever it is. And that's the frustrating part at all, right? Because it makes everyone, because we have to live, right? Pay bills, pay for employees or whatever it is, kind of play in the same field where, like, there's this fear around losing what they have because of either saying, you know, what would be said at one point a conspiracy theory. Like, I remember during COVID saying that, like, people were turning on me about the pharmaceutical industry specifically, and just speaking the truth. It's frustrating, man. So how have you been able to completely separate yourself just because of Kick, because your ability to produce content there?
I took the hits. I got deplatformed everywhere, and I still get relentlessly attacked by the media. For example, I went on the New York Post. I did an interview 2 weeks ago, and I destroyed the interviewer. So she's trying to, like, call me a hateful person. She's talking about my association with Ye and this stuff and saying, you know, and she's like clutching her pearls. I'm like, you guys support genocide. You know, how are we still talking about stuff that happened 100 years ago? Oh, do you deny the Holocaust? No, I don't at all. I never said I do. I believe it was 6 million. And why you're still talking about this? It's so interesting that you can get deplatformed, and it's illegal in a lot of countries to say this, but people deny the genocide happening right now. It's in front of our eyes. It's 4K evidence of this happening. They deny it and they don't get in trouble. The real truth is everything that you can say about Muslims, you're not allowed to say about another group. And everything that they accuse Muslims of, a country like Israel is responsible for. Trump's rhetoric right now saying that he's threatening to end a civilization, send him back to the Stone Ages. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, did you hear what he said? He said, we don't negotiate, we negotiate with bombs. This is terrorist rhetoric. Can you imagine if ISIS or Al-Qaeda, these CIA-funded groups, said that we negotiate with bombs? We would bomb the Middle East for decades to get rid of those terrorists. That's what Americans would do. And then the vast majority of the population, they would be like, yeah, that's justified. They negotiate with bombs? These are horrible, violent people. But then our politicians say, and they're like, oh, they're just kind of crazy. Trump threatens to send them to end a civilization. This is genocidal rhetoric. You understand that? There's no other way to put it, but we've become used to this. It's normalized over the past several years. Can you believe really that this is something that people move on? He just said this and then goes and gets celebrated at the UFC, threatening to end a civilization. And then I get attacked and they say things like, I'm talking about the story of Haibart and things in Islamic history. They're like, oh, you need to get deplatformed. They're trying to get the FBI to attack
Yeah,
you.
I saw that recently. Laura was saying something about that.
Laura Loomer just tweeted, I'm not exaggerating, encouraging Donald Trump to bomb every mosque in Iran, allegedly. I might even pull it up so that I don't get it wrong, because I know their method is suing. But she's saying that, okay, let's, I
Yeah,
really
pull it
want
up.
to get it
Yeah.
correct. I really want to get it word for word, so like they don't try to bring it into court or anything like this. Well, today she tweeted that Islam is a cancer to the world. Randy Fine is saying that dogs are better than Muslims. Well, okay, here's another tweet. The biggest mistake you could ever make is trusting the words of a Muslim. Can you believe it? And this is someone who speaks to Donald Trump with ties in the White House.
Laura Loomer said that?
Yes, word for word. That's not exaggeration. The biggest mistake you make is trusting the words of a Muslim. Oh, deport all Muslims from America. They need to, essentially bomb every mosque in Iran, bomb the power plants, and bring them to their knees. It's like, this is genocidal rhetoric. And she still has the president's phone number. So,
well, the thing is, it's
realize,
interesting. Like when I see it, it's just an complete absolute double standard. Like it's okay for me to do this. It's okay for me to feel this. Like forget, like I take religion out of it. It doesn't even matter what they say is if it's Buddha, Islam, Jewish, or the Christian, doesn't matter. It's a complete double standard. And that's the thing that's so glaring that I'm like, I don't understand how people don't see it. Whatever you believe, it's just always positioned. It's okay for us, but if they do it, they're bad and they're terrorists. If we do it, we're justified, we're right, it's for freedom. That's the thing that blows my mind. Because I could see it.
This is something uncomfortable to talk about. I've got a lot of pushback for saying this. I tweeted the first racist was Satan, because the jinn of Iblis was a jinn. Sometimes some of them are angels, some of them are spirits. They were commanded by God to prostrate to Adam. And the only jinn who did not want to prostrate to Adam was Iblis, because he was arrogant. He believed that he should be prostrated too. And so that was the first act of superiority, the first sign of pride. Then he became Satan. And from then on, he stayed committed to trying to deceive people, because he wants to be worshipped instead of Adam. He wants to be prostrated too. He was arrogant. He doesn't want to be like the other jinn. Racial superiority plays a role in this that a lot of people don't realize. I believe that Israel is a Jewish supremacist state. Look at the rhetoric that Epstein's saying about the chosen people, and this is why they get to justify this. But I think a lot of the trickery, why it's okay for me but not for thee, is because the Israelis look white. And one of their strongest methods, because they don't demonize white Christians the same way they demonize Muslims, because white Christians they see as a useful tool. Look at Trump right now. Look at Hegseth. Look at Rubio. Look at Ted Cruz. Look at Mike Huckabee. They are doing the good goy biddings of Israel, every day bowing over to them. And the vast majority of the country still doesn't see it. And even though they get away with acts that are terroristic, and Trump could get away with this rhetoric, is because they believe, and the propaganda is, that Muslims are brown. And that's why what's happening in Lebanon, they're like, oh, okay, it's just brown, even though it's the most Christian country in the Middle East. And they think that Islam is a brown religion. I told you this fact the other day, the most populated Muslim country in the world by demographic is an Asian country, Indonesia. By population, Islam is an Asian religion, but it's not really it's a religion for all. And they get away with this, I think. And people don't talk about this because they're saying it's liberal and makes you upset. It's because Israelis appear white. And so they get to say they're our greatest ally because a lot of them look the same. Netanyahu's the same color as Trump, right? Epstein's the same color as Trump. So we're the best friends. They don't see each other as different, even though they have different faiths, even though people like Epstein think that Jesus is burning in hell. They see each other as one and the same. And they get to point at the Muslim and be like, brown people are different. They're the terrorists. And so they say things that are terroristic and genocidal, but they're like, oh, okay, but we're the same. It's fine. Those are the different ones. And you create an us versus them. The same tribalistic rhetoric that you see with DEI, when people like left and right and divided off of this, it's happening to the administration. It's happening to the Christian Zionists, where they think that they're on the same team as the Israelis, who think that their God, Jesus, is burning in hell. How does this make sense? How do they get away with this? I really think it's because they appear the same and they go undercover and they appeal to race.
So you think it's a subliminal like thing that's happening then? Because it's because of the color of the skin?
I think if Israelis were black, this would never happen. Can you imagine if Israelis, like imagine Netanyahu, Epstein, imagine if the Knesset, Ben Gvir, can you imagine if they were brown? Would this happen?
I don't, I mean, I can't, I don't know. I can,
Would they be our greatest? America, they always say, Israel's our greatest ally. Can you imagine trying to convince Americans that Kenyans are our greatest ally? Would never happen. The justification, if you ask people, why is Israel our greatest ally? They say, oh, they have the same values. They have a democracy. They promote Western values. They don't throw gay people off the roofs, even though gay people exist. In Iran, they don't even force hijab and this stuff. They pretend and act like they are the same ones with the same values, act like Israel is an American state within the Middle East. They're just like us.
well, that's what I understand that to be their reasoning, the whole democracy of it, the whole like, oh, they have a democracy or whatever. Like, that's what I understand when they say that. Again, I don't know the details.
But they're an
of it.
ethno state. It's a Jewish ethno state where it's in their doctrine to keep it 80% at least Jewish so they can be predominantly Jewish. What type of a democracy is that? In fact, Lebanon embodies more of the similar values. They have freedom of religion the same way we do. This is allowed because so many people, although they don't know it, they're getting tricked into an us versus them mentality. There is no way that you can convince Americans that Congo is our greatest ally. Why do you think Netanyahu, whenever he's delivering speeches, he speaks English perfectly, but whenever he's speaking to his own people, he's speaking Hebrew? If they were only speaking Hebrew with English translations, nobody would buy this. They'd be like, what? But Netanyahu mastered the English language specifically to push that propaganda. Why do you think he goes on the Nelk Boys podcast? I have no problem with these people, but he's doing that to reinforce that we're just Burger King. I love Burger King. I'm just like you, Goyim. Regulated? Why are they regulating podcasts? We are just the same. You, Goyim, are just like me. We're the same people. It's the trickery, and you could see the way.
Well, I can relate. I can relate directly to the thing you said about him speaking to the American public for sure. I'm like, that is an interesting concept. That you're right, to his own people, obviously, but obviously at the same time, his own people, majority of them probably speak Hebrew.
What other foreign leader addresses our country?
No, you're right about that. You're right about that.
Do you hear anyone else deliver speeches? My fellow Americans. It's only him. You don't see Macron do this. You don't see MBS do this. You don't see Keir Starmer. They talk to their own people because they're in charge of their people. But all the time, even the White House is posting videos with Netanyahu next to them. They put the Israeli flag next to them. Even on Fox News, they tie the American flag and blend it together with the Israeli flag. And they deliver speeches side by side. Trump will have a podium, Netanyahu will have a podium.
It's to make it, yeah, subconsciously it makes it all synonymous. Like we're the same.
It would never happen if Netanyahu was a different color.
I don't know. I don't know. You might be right.
I think that's one of the most uncomfortable things to talk about, because admitting that means that a lot of people in America, although not intentionally, harbor racist ideology by accident. Or maybe it's not even that they're racist intentionally. It's that the propaganda has seeped into them and they are unknowingly following racist propaganda.
Well, it's the relatability of it. It's the identifying, oh, this person is speaking English. This person is, yeah, like you said, maybe the same complexion as me. Like that is a subconscious thing, no matter what. Someone knows it to be true or not true. That is a true thing. And so it's why I'm like, I don't know the levels of it. I mean, I think at this point to go to any level to put any sort of information out there, however they would think would be bestly, taken or accepted. So I wouldn't put it past like that would be the reason why, or that could be one of the main reasons why.
That's why I resonate with Islam so much, is because it removes that racial familiarity, because it's all about your values. I see my brothers as people who profess La ilaha illallah. If they believe the same things, if they're on the same path, if they want to make it to heaven, if they believe that there's only one God, if they say Shahada, if they pray, this is how I relate to people, based off of what you do, not what you look like, because you don't choose what you look like. I even believe it's okay to love your country, but right now it's becoming harder and harder to love your country, right? And this is an uncomfortable situation. You could be like, oh, you hate America. But what did you do to be American? You were born here. Did you choose that? No, you didn't do anything. I was born here. You were born here. That's it. I think what we should respect of one another is how you act and what you do and what you put out into the world. You didn't choose where you were born. You didn't choose what your skin color is, but you can choose what to do with the time that you have here. That's how I respect others. That's how I am familiar with others, what they put out into the world and what they do. And that's how I believe God judges you. God's not going to judge you based off of your skin color. Regulated. I'm just like you. God's not judging and saying, hey, you look just like me. He's judging what's in your heart and what you've done.
Yeah.
That's what's most important.
I don't think you're wrong at all in that. Completely. And that's why the whole religion thing in general, I think at least the way people have used religion has separated me from, I don't even know, I guess my own sort of journey within it. Cause I'm just seeing it as like, this is just all this used to say that, you know, what someone else is doing is wrong and what you're doing is right and just. And that's why I've like, for a long time in my life, I've always been separated from it. And I've always like had a really hard time with religion. Obviously in combination with like my childhood and my upbringing and the way that I grew up without a father, I looked at God in this way, like, well, why me? Why this happened to me? And I know that's a completely different circumstance, but when I got older, I completely started to recognize how religion was used to, for a lot of people make money, for a lot of people garner attention, garner relatability. And I think that's why I've just been like, not against it, not against religion necessarily, but chose to just believe in God and try to have a relationship with God personally and not, not have to necessarily go to a church to listen to what someone told me my relationship should or shouldn't look like with God. Yeah, I've struggled with that for a long time, but yeah, I agree with you, man. I guess it's like the even my mind and these questions I'm trying to ask you, like it's almost like you don't know until it's too late, like where this all goes and how it all ends up. It's like, it's just going to be what it is. And maybe that sounds defeatist. I wish there was a better way to really elicit change.
It does sound defeatist. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think you were faced with one of the hardest tests, but the belief in Islam is that Allah tests those he loves. So he gives those he loves the hardest test because he's trying to get you to see if you can overcome that. And you were faced with an extremely hard test. And what's super inspiring to me, because, ultimately living in America, our lives are automatically a lot easier. I saw a video of the prisoners in Palestine right now. And right now they have a death penalty coming up. You saw that Ben-Gvir passed a death penalty specific to Palestinian prisoners. And I think a majority of those prisoners are children. And you could see them, they're in their waiting cell behind the bars and someone's recording a video and they're still chanting Allahu Akbar. And they know that they're probably on their way to death. They're probably never going to be able to get out of this prison. Even during Ramadan, photos of people sitting in destroyed homes in Gaza. The civilization is wiped and they have a picnic table out and they're still breaking their fast right at sundown. They've already fasted for the whole year since the war started. They've already had a lack of food and water and they're still practicing it now, seeing that their faith grows stronger. That is what is super inspiring. And I think God gives us these tests to see how we are shaped, because this is really how you figure out, and this is how you're molded. This is how you figure out who you really are, how you overcome these obstacles. So I see those as opportunities. Whenever I get hardship now, it's been a difficult year, for not to make woe is me, but overall career-wise for me, the amount of obstacles, it's never been like this. But whenever it happens, I have something where I'm like, all right, now what? Or those daredevils in like cartoon movies where they see like a big jump and they're like, yeah, I see it as another opportunity. How am I going to come out of this a better person? And so, yeah, you could think you will never know until it's the end. But where there's true strength is real faith and conviction. If you see the videos after Trump is threatening to bomb the power plants, you could see the Iranians, all there waving their flags, standing together hand in hand, civilians right on the power plant. That's how they all link together, they're waving the flags. And there was even another violin player that's sitting right there, live streaming himself right where the desalination plants or the power plants were, ready for the missiles that were about to hit. Seeing that sort of faith, there's no faith stronger than that. The reason they're able to do this is because they know that if they are martyred in warfare, if they go out doing what they're supposed to do, protecting their people without any fear at all, even if the missiles come down, you can see all the protesters, they hear the missile alarms and they keep waving their flags even stronger than before. That's a faith that's lost in a lot of places in the world. And it's inspiring. And it just shows that there is nothing that can come between that. These are not people who are thinking, okay, maybe we'll find out. No, it's complete conviction, certainty, and real faith that we're here to do what's right. And what's right is to stand for your people when it matters the most.
Yeah. How do you think the war ends?
It never really ends. If you listen to Julian Assange, I'm sure you're aware of him. He released
Yeah.
WikiLeaks. He was the founder, and then he was in hiding in the U.S. Embassy in the UK for almost a decade. He said that it's not ever over. It's these forever wars. So forever wars are how they remain profitable. The military industrial complex takes about 70% of our budget. They make so much money from producing weapons. Then the equipment gets destroyed. They have to rebuild more. Our tax dollars go there. It's a giant money laundering scheme. It's how you keep the slave class where they are. You get to promote fear. The news gets their time slots filled up with more slop. It's a forever war. So you could even say that the Iran war, although it started on February 28th, you could say it's been going on for 47 years. You could say it's been going on through proxy wars. You could say that the war in Gaza, the genocide in Gaza, was a proxy war because Hamas was being funded by Iran. Or even now, the war between Russia and Ukraine is really a war between Russia and the United States. The United States funding the Ukraine with billions of dollars. And so they're not fighting each other directly. They're using proxies against each other. So it's never really over. Although they might declare it's over, how many times have they declared victory? They claimed there was a ceasefire. It ended in a couple hours. It's never over.
What do you think becomes of, I guess, the relationship afterwards with Israel and America?
I think the U.S. empire loses a lot of power in the Middle East. Iran proved that the military bases in the GCC don't have the capabilities to fight back. They hit them all in the first few days of the war. And what are they going to do to respond? They close the Strait of Hormuz and the U.S. can't do anything about it. They have a lot more leverage on the economy than Trump realized. I think Israel is going to replace a lot of those military bases, and they're going to take up for what the U.S. lost in this war. I think the U.S. empire declines. I think our economy takes a major hit, as it already is. And the greater Israel empire, we're already seeing it expand. Look at them going into Lebanon. They take up for what we lost in that region.
Yeah.
And that's why Trump right now is threatening to go into Greenland. That's why he went into Venezuela. And in the midst of all this, there's so much to spend our energy on. He strangles Cuba, turns off the electricity there. And now he wants to keep on expanding. The reason he wants to go into Greenland is because now that they can't get the same oil from the Strait of Hormuz, they need oil from different places. And the U.S. empire has the Western Hemisphere on lock.
Hold on a second. So, but you said, like maybe 30 seconds ago that he wasn't aware of what would happen, like with the economy, or he wasn't aware what would happen with, I guess, the whole Strait of Hormuz and the oil. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like he was aware, because if he was aware, because he talked about the Greenland thing, I don't know how long ago, that's almost like they knew that it was going to be this way if they're worried about that now.
I think he's power hungry. There is a theory that he's playing 5D chess, but I think he's too stupid, especially with all the blunders he's making. Him threatening, open the effing strait, declaring victory, I don't think he is playing 5D chess. I think he's just power hungry. But that is the new move, is to take over all the oil in the Western Hemisphere. And I think he was pressured by Netanyahu to invade Venezuela. I said this at the beginning of the year. A lot of people gave me major pushback. They said you're anti-American because I said the invasion of Lebanon, kidnapping Maduro, that was all for Israel. They just needed to get a new oil supply because Israel knew that to get Americans to fight the war in Iran, Iran's first move is closing the Strait of Hormuz. I think a lot of Americans didn't realize that. That's the first thing they did. So in order to supplement that oil loss, they needed to get oil from Venezuela. There's also a lot of oil, not only in America, but in Canada. And so they're going to need new choke points. Greenland is a choke point. The U.S. Navy is the strongest Navy in the world. They control the sea lanes. They control the trade. That's why everybody has to trade with the U.S. dollar. That's why the petrodollar is so prevalent. That's why we have the world reserve currency. Greenland protects Canada and prevents Russia, prevents Iran, other nations from being able to take that oil there. So we're now going to try to get more oil. We'll see how successful that is, or if it's crude, or if it's the same quality. But we're going to get that oil from South America, get resources from Cuba, and try to go into Canada as well. And Canada's rapidly declining. So I mean, they don't pose any threat. In the Western Hemisphere, the American empire faces no struggle. That's why Americans get to turn their brains off for this war. They're like, I don't want to hear about this because it never happens on our soil. We're so far away. We're separated by the Pacific and the Atlantic. The missiles don't really reach. We control the sea lanes. How are people going to invade our country? How's any other empire going to be able to affect us here on our soil? Only with false flag attacks. They can stage something like, well, whatever you believe about 9/11, something like that can happen. But other than that, an invasion is almost impossible. Mexico's not going to invade. Canada's not going to pose any threat. We have the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah. Dude, the 9/11 stuff's so crazy. The more I looked into that, I'm just like, bro, what the? That's one of the craziest. I mean, that was the tipping point. I remember when I was a kid, that was like the whole country was like, let's go get them. That was one of the craziest moments. And then you see the clips of like the firemen being like, yeah, that was a second explosion. Like we were trying to go up the thing, it was exploding. And dude, I just
look at the way the buildings fall in Lebanon right now. They're falling exactly like that. And it's like a plane's not hitting them. It's controlled demolition. The way they're blowing up villages, they collapse the same way. Not trying to get too conspiratorial, but Netanyahu did say himself that 9/11 was great for Israel. They got
I saw that. I saw that article. 2008, I think. Yeah.
He got the US went and spent years, decades in Iraq. And our greatest ally, do you know how many troops the IDF deployed to support their greatest ally, the US, in that war?
I'm assuming none.
0.
Yeah.
Not one troop.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Yeah. Obviously, if you're the prime minister at the time saying it was great for us because it swayed America sort of on their side and, for whatever their opinion was to be over there. And then to not do that is interesting, to say the least.
Makes you wonder if there's going to be another 9/11 style attack because this war is super unpopular and it's going to keep dragging on. I think that the rescue mission, I'm sure you heard about this, where they had to go and save that pilot. Why is this guy not on every single news station, that rescued pilot? Who is this guy? What's his name?
Know. I don't know.
Knows?
Look him up, pull him up.
I don't think we know his name. I don't think your producer's going to find anything. I don't think we know his name. He's not doing any interviews, not doing any podcast tours, but they sent tons of troops. Even there were nuclear experts going in on this rescue mission. Why is a nuclear expert going to rescue this pilot? After he was injured in that plane crash, he said he had some sort of leg injury. I don't want to misquote, but he had some sustained real injuries. He hiked up 2.1 kilometers through mountainous terrain to get to that landing strip that the US built. How did he walk all that? How did he walk that distance without getting captured? If he's injured, how is he like hiking? How did he know the terrain? But they called him a hero. They say we have no man left behind, a policy in the US military. What I think they used that rescue mission because the ground invasion, boots on the ground, super unpopular. Nobody wants that, right? They can use a rescue mission as a pretext. So now they're not actually deploying troops. They're going to save Private Ryan. It's another Black Hawk Down. They need to be the heroes and be the Matt Damon and the Tom Hanks and go in and save Private Ryan. So as there's going to be more boots on the ground, and maybe that was, the first example of that. You're going to see more rescue missions. You're going to see more undercover operations to justify it without calling it boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Did your producer find the name of the rescue pilot?
No. Did you find anything? No, yeah, he's saying no.
Why don't we know his name?
I don't know.
Why would he go undercover?
Your guess is as good as mine, my friend.
My guess, maybe he doesn't have a name. Maybe he's not even real. maybe he's not even a real guy.
Unnamed. Yeah.
Unnamed pilot.
Yeah, I mean, got to get him there somehow, I guess, right? Where do we go from here? Are you enjoying making content about this?
No, I hate it. It's super draining. I can relate completely to your exhaustion. It's been draining. It's been tiring. A lot of my community, they're like, oh man, this is, we're upset about this, but it's like, man, this is the most important thing to cover right now. And I want it to be over. It'd be nice to go back to LA and Jester Max in the Raw gym.
Yeah.
With Neon and, put on the TTS and spit water out. That's the most fun content, but
smoke cigarettes.
Smoke cigarettes in Brad's gym. I can't wait to smoke a cigarette in Brad's gym again. I can't wait to spike his cortisol. I want to go snatch Brad's hat right off his head and then run away. That's the content that we want.
I will punch you straight in the face. I'm not
I'm
gonna
getting
slap
away.
this time.
I'm going to get a rescue mission. We're not, I'm going to evade that. That's the content people want, but I find it impossible I can't think about other things right now because it just seems so obvious and I don't see other people cover it. Like, why don't people know? Why aren't people questioning, hey, what's the name of this pilot? Like, no one's talking about that. Even people who are investing a lot of time. And it's like the fact that I see it so blatantly obvious and people aren't really speaking about it means that I should. And it's just what I think is the most important. But yeah, I relate, but it's super important to not feed into that defeatist mentality because that's what they want. You have to know that that's what they want of us. And so I've been putting a major effort and it's been a struggle for me. I can relate to your struggle as well with faith and with prayer. Since I came back home from Ramadan, I got sick for 2 weeks and I couldn't pray. And then I got better. I'm better now, as you could see. And then I could feel trapped, like, because I'm supposed to be praying 5 times a day. I'm like, I can't, like, I know I should be praying at it. Something is, pulling me and I feel like I can't, but I've been getting back on it and I feel better and I feel more energized. And as I'm back on my 5 prayers, the energy that you can see on this podcast is because I am praying regularly again. So I highly recommend Christians, Muslims, Jews, anybody, stay consistent with your prayers right now. Make an effort to smile more, make an effort to be kind to people, make an effort to do more charity, to put out something more positive, to talk about this. I am actually disappointed in a lot of the manosphere. I did a charity for Lent and Ramadan, and I didn't see anybody talk about that. People are trying to say that I human traffic them and spreading lies about me and, death threats. And not anybody has spoke about this charity. We raised $200,000. I just posted the footage on my X of the food that went into Gaza. Next, I want to do a charity for Lebanon. I am really trying my best. And it's not because, people obviously say, in the break when the Zoom failed, I open up Twitter and I see people like, oh, why'd you put your face on the charity? I didn't ask him to do that, but it's a good example of how they're going to find anything to criticize. Even when you raise money for starving children in a genocide, they're still like, why'd you do it this way? They're always going to criticize. And you have to understand that that's what they have. So all we can do is try our best to fight against it, which is being kind and being, more on your prayers and worship and everything good that we know intrinsically is good. We have to triple that right now.
Yeah. I think you're spot on with that for sure. And you're right about the fact that no matter what you do, people will sort of on it from any direction for any reason they seem valid. I mean, that's the internet in a nutshell. Like no matter what you do, you're gonna get backlash, whether it's good or bad. It's just the way it is. So I've accepted that. I know that to be true, which is why I just don't really give a at this point. I'll just make whatever content I want. But you're right. I think more people need to focus on obviously what we can control in ourselves. And like I was kind of speaking to earlier, like that subconscious and that consciousness of just us individually and how it affects everyone, I think substantially that people aren't aware of. But I think it starts there. And that's the thing that we have to really focus on. I think it's just harder for people to do that because of all the external bullshit, all the external clickbait or brainwash, whatever you want to call it, that people are so drawn to because it's just that cheap dopamine hit. And I think people are just like burnt out also because of that same thing. So you're right. Like coming back and refocusing, like, okay, what's in the center? What's really good? How can we really do good and give good to other people genuinely? And I think you're absolutely right and spot on. So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, man. I know you get a lot of hate all the time. I know it's like you're probably really used to it, but I'm glad that you're continuing to speak out regardless of and help regardless of that. So that's what the world needs more of, especially right now.
One realization that I came to recently is, we talk about how I reject the gambling deal. And your pushback is, okay, maybe it's so that you can get this audience. And I really came to this understanding.
Me and you talking about that.
Yeah. And I understand why you say that. That's not true. But if I had went down that path completely, say I didn't talk about the stuff, say I didn't talk about the administration and the failures and the end times and religion and politics, and say I took the gambling deal and I kept on doing, grabbing Brad's hat and cigarette content. If I just stayed doing that and went down the traditional streamer path, I wouldn't face the obstacles that I'm facing. That's the really interesting thing. Where if I, like yesterday, I was streaming, doing an IRL stream, and someone comes up with, he has $3,000 in cash in his car. And he said, I can promote my IG right now if I give you this cash right here. And I'm like, I can't do it. That was like more money, I think, that I made in that stream from the kick revenue. And I had to say no. And I was like, man, if I just took that right there, I'd promoted it. I wouldn't get these attacks. I wouldn't get slandered in the media. The New York Post, they scrapped that whole interview and just wrote an article saying that I'm an evil person because I destroyed her in the interview. I would not get the scrutiny and all these headaches that my life isn't hard, but it would be a lot easier if I went down that route. So, but I know that that's what makes you more complete, and that makes you, how you come out of these situations is what really defines you. So I'm glad that it happens.
Yeah. Well, like you said, man, I mean, the God is giving you sort of the challenges, and if it wasn't a challenge, you just fall into the same boat as everyone else doing the same sort of regardless. And you're not going to necessarily learn from it, or you're changing your specific morals just because of money. And take that to the farthest degree, and you become like, I guess, the people who are doing all the evil in the world for money and power. And on a small scale, right? You'd be doing that, but that's kind of how it got to that point where it's like, well, it's just money, so I'm going to do it for money no matter what. And I think that's the thing that just happens to most people. Like, even when we talked earlier about being afraid of speaking out or talking about certain things in a certain light or in a certain way because they're afraid, oh, maybe I won't get these sponsors or I won't get this business deal. It's just sad. I mean, it's just like, at the end of the day, we're all human and we all deserve the ability to like try to be better in our lives and to try to make more out of our lives without being demonized, being told that we're lesser than other people. And there's just so much. I'm just like, man, it's like everyone knows that and everyone believes that, but not everyone acts on that. And not everyone like stands behind that. And that's the interesting thing, because anyone else in that position would be like, like you, it'd be like looking out. And I know you felt from a lot of people in, at least specifically the red pill and, side, that you've been sort of, not, I don't want to say taken advantage of, but maybe overlooked, or, you've given people sort of love and whether it be helping or speaking or, trying to push someone, like the Tate thing, for example, with you. I know you felt like I know you got joked that you stole Top G and all this stuff, but basically sort of feeling like you've done so much for someone and then you receive something else on the other side of it. Well, I think that's common. And I think you're right. I think no matter what, it's just sort of a matter of what is true and what is good in your heart. You follow that no matter what. And that's what makes people great. When it's all said and done, I think that's the only thing that actually makes people great. So,
I mean, look, he brags about it now. He says, former Top G says, I should have thrown him under the bus twice. He's saying he threw me under the bus. Like, this is public admittance of guilt. It's wrong to throw people under the bus. It's wrong to falsely blame somebody like that. And I know that eats away at people. This is stuff that keeps you up at night, especially when he's saying, I can't sleep, I'm anxious of this stuff. I have to talk about this forever because it's a repeated pattern that I found within the manosphere. Why I really think it's dead, because a lot of that ideology is important. There is a real issue with men's mental health. And look at hypergamy, look at clavicular stream every day, just how terrible it's getting. The girls are jumping out of the relationships to go and sleep with the guy live on stream for one night and get pumped and dumped and go back home to the boyfriend. This is regular. You almost see it every day. This should be addressed. But the reason that space died is because everybody turned into grifters. Everybody turned into manipulators. They sold out. They don't prioritize what they're supposed to. And for a lot of these people, you almost can't blame them. I'm not trying to alleviate them of the guilt. All these people, this has been a repeated pattern. My fans have seen it time and time. I've made so many of those careers and they admit it, but it gets so hard. And you see somebody who's going down that path, trying to remain righteous, and seeing the attacks they get, it's like, I don't want to have to put up with this. I just want to make some content. Do I really want to deal with these headaches? Probably not. So you almost understand why they do that. It doesn't make it right, but when it's that difficult and everybody sees the writing on the wall, why would they want to go down that route? There was another one in the manosphere who kept saying, "Why'd you do this? It could have been easier if you didn't say things to get you banned." I'm like, someone had to say it. Was I wrong? And they're like, no, you weren't wrong, but you could have been Kai or Speed. It's like, I'm not trying to be Kai or Speed. I'm me. I'm Sneako. This is what I want to do. I don't regret going down this. I know that I had good intentions. I know that it was important. And when I look back at what my achievements were, I never think about money. I never think about fame. I don't think about numbers. I think about the positive difference that I've made. And I think everybody can relate to that. What you are most proud of, although pride is a sin, I'm trying to find a better word, but what you respect the most about your output in the world is when you did what's right, when it cost the most. That's what you'll be remembered for, and that's what you want to be remembered for.
Yeah. And how you showed up in other people's lives and how you affected their lives positively. Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you think there's any timeline where you're able to come back together with Tate? Genuine question. Just okay. I mean, I didn't mean come back together in a weird way. Just like, be friendly again.
I like to be the bigger person in all these situations. If people do express an apologetic tone, if they do admit without any sort of malice, then I'm willing to accept apologies. But so many people have egos, man. They prioritize their reputation and the way their community sees them. And so they're not, just not, a lot of people aren't capable of doing that. I think they're blinded by ego and can't admit they were wrong righteously in the way that they're supposed to. So I can't accept that. I've lost too much defending people who don't respect me. And you said taking advantage of, although that sounds, like I'm a victim, I do think a lot of people saw me as somebody useful to promote whatever they want and to push their platform without any sort of reciprocation. So I'm done putting myself in that situation.
So that's a no. That's a no. That's valid. That's valid. It's fine. But you and Nick, though, you got to figure that out. Yeah, I love the non-answers.
I mean, it's a broader thing, right? The reason you have friends or associates is because you make your lives better. You speak positively about each other. You elevate each other. Your circle, even like the word friend is a loose term, but if you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, why bring people around who are dragging you down or negatively affecting you? So that just seems plainly obvious to everybody. You can like somebody, but if they are hurting you, then it's really your own fault. And it's almost like you enjoy, it's like masochistic to keep that around.
Yeah, I get it. But people grow and people learn and people make choices based on where they're at. And it's not always necessarily like who they're going to be forever, right? Because you've grown, you've changed, you've gotten better, you've been worse at times. Like we all have, I have as well. Mm-hmm. And people get to points where like they learn more and they recognize, like their past misdirection, whatever. I don't know. I'm just a big believer in like people, I don't want to say change. I think people grow, people evolve, people learn more and can become better. So I don't know. I've just always been.
I try to see the best in people, but that's how I've been screwed over, is really seeing, I give people the benefit of the doubt more than I should for somebody in the public eye like this. And it's cost me a lot.
What does it cost you though?
Everything.
What other than scrutiny on the internet?
Getting deplatformed, financial hits, reputational hits, death threats, doxes, slander, exhaustion, enemies, head on a swivel when you're around. All this is the result of it's my fault. It's my decisions to keep so many around and to give people the benefit of the doubt too many times and to allow that energy into my life.
Yeah.
So,
what's interesting about
it's not
it though,
placing
too?
the blame on others. It's my own doing, and I have to live with that and do the best I can to recover.
Yeah, I understand. It's also really interesting though, because all of that stuff that you mentioned and all the stuff that you go through also made you who you are at this moment, right? So it's not all bad, right? Obviously, there's a lot of negative that came from it that affected you financially, mentally, very likely. But all of that is also making you who you are in this exact moment, which I think a lot of other people who are what we consider more of your true fans or your true audience or people that are listening that are interested would admire or would appreciate about someone. So it obviously I get it. Like it sucks to, and because I fully have been there in certain situations in my life where I've been taken advantage of, and I struggle a lot. And I used to struggle a lot more with the sort of letting go, like just completely letting go of it, because I always felt like, man, it shouldn't have happened to me. But at the same time, I could also reflect and look back on my life and go, well, this also gave me so much perspective and so much insight and so much light for the rest of my life to give out. So there's a benefit in all the negative. You know that.
Right. And the lesson is only learned if you apply it. So
Yeah.
by repeating the same mistakes, you're just an idiot. So you have to
Fair.
see what happened and learn from it.
Yeah. You're right, honestly. Well, Sneako, it's been a pleasure. I always love talking to you. I appreciate your time. You guys know where to find him everywhere I think he's back on YouTube. Yes, he is back on YouTube. Sneako, he's got 2 channels. He's on Kick mainly streaming. I know he streams also on YouTube as well before he goes to Kick. But yeah, you don't need this, but show him love. I appreciate you for coming on and giving us your time, man, for real.
It's always a pleasure. I love this podcast. Next time we got to do it in person. I know this is supposed to be
we have to. We have to.
We'll do it in person next time. Thanks as always, man. I really appreciate you, Brad. You're doing great stuff. I look forward to the next one.
Cool. Thank you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, guys. Every Tuesday. I love you guys. I'll see you next time. 11 o'clock. We're out of here.